If you haven't seen that, you should see that movie. You should see the movie Serpent's Egg, which was the only movie Ingmar Bergman made in the United States, and it has Liv Ullmann and I think it's Keith Carradine in it. But it's very good about the rise of the fascism in Germany. The image of the serpent's egg with the snake of fascism yet to hatch in the 1920s, when they began the actual fascist manipulation and control over people, and they're doing the mind control experiments. And there's a cabaret singer and this young man whose brother is killed, and that death is in fact meant to depict one of nearly 400 unsolved political assassinations in the Weimar Republic right before Hitler rose to power. The professors that spoke out, the humanitarians, the musicians, the labor leaders, the people that could have stood in the way of the road toward fascism were systematically murdered. And the cases were all left unsolved, and that's exactly the pattern I believe has been happening in the United States and around the world since the end of the Kennedy assassination. Not that they didn't kill anybody before that, but in a more concentrated way and with the specific purpose of stopping anybody that really can stand in a very public view and with some power to get in the way or be a witness to the wrong thing. These people are being systematically wiped out. And they did so. The Freikorps, a reactionary veteran group, did it there. So I think taking the television set off, or at least picking very carefully what you're watching, is one of the ways to begin to expand your consciousness. My friend Wendy Govier calls it the electronic dissolution of memory, EDOM, which is being done to you by that particular, that and too long sitting in front of the computer, I think, probably has the same effect, these cathode rays and different things. So that's one step. I think another is to be literate. I think they've intentionally made large segments of the population illiterate. In fact, there's a program now in the United States, and if you read about it, that the FBI are going around asking for the names of everyone who comes into a library. That's how subversive it is to read a book now. And I think there's a little bit of stuff still in print, and books that you should save and to get back on that direction in terms, and you don't have to take it all off the printed page. I mean, there's various ways to transmit electronically information, but I think that the service that Patrick's doing with Prevailing Winds is very, very important, because they're looking out there for the people that are reacting and documenting the stuff out on the front edge and making it available to everybody, at a reasonable cost. It's very hard to get these things. They disappear. I'm an archivist in this area, and I've tried to save documentation of everything since I started down this track back in the 1960s, and I've tried to also get other researchers to combine collections, and I was the archivist for a period of time of the May Brussels collection, which was 6,000 books and about 42 filing cabinets filled with 10,000 clippings, in order that she'd clipped 15 papers a day and 150 periodicals a month, and read close to 1,000 books a year, and then broke them down each week in a radio show where she made the connections to the past and up to the present, called World Watchers International. And she went for close to 17 and a half years before she died of cancer in 1989, which may or may not have been induced. There's some suspicious circumstance around her death, but she, to me, was a shining example of what an individual can do. She broke the code of the whole 20th century history and was the first one. I had worked for 5 years before I heard of her, and I saw the connections between the various assassinations, and I had that piece down, and I saw an article by her on the Watergate break-in in the Realist magazine in 1972, which was beginning to make those connections and made sense to me. But she really had made this Nazi connection, which put the final piece into my puzzle, and I worked with her on a regular basis for 20 years, sharing information and that kind of thing. And these kind of collections need to be preserved and need to be made then accessible to as many people as possible, so that we can get at this hidden history. But not everybody has to do the same homework. Every particular piece, Penn Jones, one of the researchers, said, take any one thing and research the hell out of it, because any one piece of this oppression will eventually illuminate the whole if you do your research correctly. And it's not necessary that somebody follow the particularly arcane political gossip that I trade in order to figure out what's happening in their lives. I'm fascinated by this schlepper level, as May used to call it, the trail of dirty hands and who does the deed, because they can lead us back to the broader understanding. But that's my particular fascination. I think history has its claims, and we need to know certain things, but I think mostly it's a matter of taking your life seriously and owning it, and not buying into the lie that you're told that your life is worthless, that your life is merely some part of a vast historical chain, realizing that you have worth as an individual and that other people have it too, and have it much beyond the manipulation of the games that you're taught to play with other people. And when you begin to respect yourself, then you can respect other people enough to form non-oppressive and supportive bonds with them, and work on reality in a concrete way. But as long as you're in the system from an opportunist point of view, they're going to manipulate you from just about any angle they can. I mean, it's basically like Wheel of Fortune, you know. I mean, every particular human perversity, every particular human addiction that they can lay out there in front of you, they will. They don't know which one will catch you. They don't care. But they'll keep spinning it in front of you as long as you're willing to keep grabbing. And as long as you're willing to be an opportunist, they'll use you. And I like to say that if you think you're getting all you can out of any particular institution in your society, that institution's probably getting all it can out of you. They track everyone. I mean, they have machines that tap 450,000 phones simultaneously. Then they play those tapes back at high speed, and a computer listens for certain key phrases or repetitions of phrases. Then those tapes get singled out and weeded out up to the top. It's called Operation Harvest, the National Security Agency, and they wouldn't miss a phone. They just go from city to city, block to block, and listen to everybody at least once. Then they take the tapes that they think have enough phrases in them to make them significant, and they put those to a human ear. So they look at everybody and they look at everything, and they don't have to single it out. At some point you might get tagged for heavier surveillance, phone tapping or that kind of thing, you know, or somebody following you around, depending on your level of visibility and political activity and their interest. I haven't had one coming. I think I'm going to have one going back. But then again, the energy is a lot different here than down where Bush lives. I'm on this same street, pretty close, Pennsylvania Avenue, a little further down the block. I mean, he's supposed to be the leader of this great free democratic nation. He's an armed camp. They got concrete barricades all along Pennsylvania Avenue in front of the White House. They got barbed wire up on the roof and troops up there with missiles and guns. I mean, they talk about these terrible dictatorships of Ortega and the Sandinistas in Nicaragua. Ortega used to go out and pass guns out to the people. How far do you think Bush would get down the street? If you go up to the gate of the White House and you want to see the president and you insist, or you go to a second gate, they grab you and they take you out to St. E's. It's a federal psychiatric institution. And they call them the White House cases, and they have a diagnosis for delusional activity. You're delusional because you think the President of the United States wants to help you. Now, you know, and it's an armed camp there. They got every kind of cop in the world. They got Park Service and Secret Service and, you know, D.C. cops, and then they got military police. I mean, you can't go out in the streets of D.C. without seeing cops everywhere you turn. And, you know, the energy is a little different up here, a little anyway. And, you know, the helicopters aren't going over quite as often at the little bed and breakfast where we're staying as they would in D.C. or L.A. or the cities down in America. So it's a little more advanced there. But I think May was surveilled. A house was built across the street to surveil her. She was told it would be built. She went over to borrow a cup of sugar one time, and there was nothing in the house except large tape machines, no furniture in the living room, and who knows what else beaming at her or being put into her system, maybe carcinogenic situation in some way. And that house was the scene of a great deal of activity when I was packing her archive to move it. I thought they were constructing something. I think now they were dismantling whatever was there. But there was pounding and activity day and night. Cars, trucks going in and out. And then the day that she died, at 6 that morning, that house burnt to the ground. And the little tiny paper there in Carmel said that the fire department refused to release the name of the owner of the house, refused to release the name of the occupants of the house or whether they were the owners of the house, and refused to release the cause of the fire. a little neighborhood fire, you know, one house, what's the secret? So she was certainly surveilled, but I think you have to understand that people like May and I, we have a certain level of audience. We're not that much of a threat to them. If we were, we wouldn't be out doing what we're doing or speaking. We're not people that are direct witnesses. I think they see us as some form of amusement, a sort of bellwether, to see which of their operations are clicking and which aren't, how they can fool people a little better. I think also we are the only vertical source or horizontal source of information to the agents who are on need to know and not allowed to know what they're doing in Chile or Iran or these places, and then they can turn May on and figure it out. And so there were times when May would get a warning that she was going to be killed just before, you know, a car accident or something was set up from these agents, I think, who wanted her to keep telling them what they couldn't get from the boss and figure out what was next. So, you know, I think there's varying levels, and I don't worry about it. I mean, maybe if they tap my phone long enough, they'll learn something.